Good Monday morning. This is the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for the upcoming week. We first take a look at precipitation over the past 7 days. You can see significant amounts continuing where they have been across the west coast through the Sierra and up into the Pacific Northwest. We've had a bit of a dry spell across most of the Great Basin, especially the southern two-thirds. Still some significant precipitation up in the mountains of southern and central Idaho, where the dark green and the yellow indicates anywhere from 1 to 2 inches, but just a couple of hundredths of an inch to maybe a quarter or half inch where you see these different shades of blue given by the color code on the right hand side of the map. Here's a look at our infrared satellite imagery with upper level maps superimposed. The height lines in the green. You can see how tightly packed they are. This indicates a strong wind field and also stormy conditions. The remnants of one low pressure now pushed past the Great Basin into Colorado now. We see a deeper low pressure area now dropping down into the Pacific Northwest, and this is pushing in tons of Pacific moisture into the region. So a very stormy pattern in store for us, not only for today, but as we'll see in the upcoming maps, for much of the week. And so we're expecting a very active weather pattern across the Great Basin and the west, starting with today. You can see the tight packing of these yellow lines indicates a strong wind field aloft, and this is associated with a lot of Pacific moisture coming through, plowing again into California. A very strong storm system coming up the next few days, probably something that happens maybe once every few years in terms of rainfall amounts. You can see that cloudy skies cover the northern half of the Great Basin with precipitation, more sunshine across the southern half. And if we look at the overall ventilation index or overall dispersion, you can see areas in white from the Arizona Strip through most of Utah and much of Nevada. Those white areas indicate excellent overall dispersion, especially up in central Idaho as well. Down in southern Idaho and parts of far northern Nevada, the only restrictions will be the cloudy skies, limiting some inversions in some of the broader valleys, but overall not too bad. And we can see that dispersion really benefiting from the transport winds. These winds in the orange to brownish shades indicate wind speeds of 25 to 35 miles per hour on the transport level, and that covers just about the entire area. So even where mixing heights might be low in a few spots, that should be compensated for by the transport winds overall. So looking at Tuesday, we see that most of the Great Basin is covered in that darker green shade, means significant precipitation is expected with a windy type of storm system. Dispersion, especially across most of Utah and Nevada, is pretty good. Up in Idaho, the purples you see here probably overdone again just because of the cloud cover and lack of solar heating. But even in those areas, if you check the transport winds, winds overall in those areas still fairly strong. Those orange shades to reddish shades, 25 to 35, even 40 miles per hour in terms of transport winds. And mixing heights also pretty good, especially across central parts of Utah into Nevada and even into southern Idaho as well. So pretty good dispersion overall. And then looking at Wednesday, we still have lots of precipitation through the area. We are starting to see a high pressure ridge building in, but still a lot of moisture coming in. That means actually warm air coming in with that precipitation. We're actually going to see snow levels across the Sierra all the way through the Wasatch start rising to maybe 7,000 feet, and maybe in the Sierra up to like 8,000 feet, which could cause some flooding and snow melt in some of the middle elevations, something to be watched. And our ventilation index or dispersion on the right-hand side of the screen. Looking at transport winds, they start diminishing a little bit, but still pretty good coming off the Sierra. Our vertical mixing heights start decreasing across northern Nevada and parts of northern Utah. And speaking of Utah, the Utah Clearing Index for this week, the reddish shades indicate good dispersion. The bluish shades indicate worse dispersion. You can see the best dispersion will be today and into Tuesday. Wednesday, we start seeing some limitations scattered across the area, but still not too bad this time of year. So overall, pretty good air quality. Precipitation expected between Monday morning and Thursday morning. Copious amounts across the Sierra front, almost 12 inches of rain in some maximum areas, and also 2 to 3 inches across some of the higher terrain areas of northern Nevada and into the Wasatch, as well as into the Tetons and the mountains of central Idaho, but drier across the southern third of our Great Basin region. And so looking further down the road for this Thursday, you can see that we're in another stormy pattern, but we do have a kind of a we call it a dirty ridge meteorologically, high pressure ridge poking on up, but there's so much moisture being pulled up in the Pacific through it. We are getting the warmer air with high pressure. We're also getting increased moisture, so it'll be higher snow levels, more rain than snow. Especially maybe above 7,500 feet or so is where we could see the changeover. So there could be some rain and some maybe even some flooding issues in some areas. On the right-hand side, you see overall ventilation dispersion best in southern areas, limited by cloud cover up here in the north. But again, transport winds should be fairly good. And we go to Friday, we see the storm system deepening across the area. There is some colder air moving in with this low pressure area. Combined with strong winds and low pressure, we have overall good dispersion anywhere you see the yellow and white. So overall, no real significant issues through there to normally what it could be when we're in stagnation. On Saturday, low pressure deepens over our area down across southern Nevada, southern Utah. That's where the best overall dispersion will be. And you see the areas in purple are almost non-existent. So dispersion actually surprisingly good, especially in our northern areas through there. And on Sunday, slowly the low pressure system drifts into the southeast portion of our area and into New Mexico. Good overall dispersion across the southern two-thirds of the Great Basin. Some limitations up north, but still not as bad. No areas in the purple, so we should see pretty good dispersion most of this week. Precipitation-wise, this is precipitation that continues from Thursday morning through Saturday morning, and on top of the 11 or 12 inches of precipitation, another up to 6 inches of precipitation up on the Sierra front, another 1 to 2, maybe even close to 3 inches across parts of the Wasatch, the mountains of southeast Idaho, the Tetons, and across a good portion of the mountains of southern and central Idaho. So very wet week. Looking at our extended 8 to 14 day outlook, we are noticing a cutoff of Arctic air much above normal temperatures across the area. This will be accompanied by slightly wetter than normal conditions across parts of Nevada and maybe western Idaho. Drier than normal across most of our area, especially to the east. So we'll see how this plays out, but overall looks like a break for some warmer weather and perhaps some drier conditions and perhaps some better burning conditions, especially across parts of Wyoming and Utah as we go through this period. This concludes our briefing. Our next update will be coming up this Friday. Have a great week.